Hi everyone, so today I want to share a few techniques that I like to use when it comes to the Tim Holtz Distress inks, or particularly the oxides. So I've got 4 new colors here. It's a set that I bought together. I'll try to link everything down below. The color is Fossilized Amber, Spiced Marmalade, Worn Lipstick and Fired Brick. Now I do want to do some swatches, and I think I'll just use one of those notebooks that I don't really do anything with, but I'll show you later something else. Okay, so I'm going to do it on these 2 pages just because I don't know whether it's going to bleed through or not. These are not watercolor papers. Okay, so let me start by swatching. I'll do 2 and 2 basically. So this is the Fossilized Amber, and kind of has this sort of like mustardy yellow type of color. And then here I'll do this one, Spiced Marmalade. And in fact, let me just swatch the I want to swatch the Spiced Marmalade ink right next to it, so you can see it's a very different color. Okay, and then we have Worn Lipstick, beautiful color. So, and then I do have that one in the Distress Oxide. Let's see, you see it's more a sort of bright and transparent compared to the oxides. And the Fired Brick, I don't have that color to compare, but it's looking interesting. Okay, so these are the 4 colors, and I have to say I love them. They're very gorgeous. This is a super beautiful orange, really is. So to distress them, what you can do is grab some sort of spray bottle, or you can also do it with a brush, but I'm going to do it with spray bottle and just spray it like that and see what happens. Okay, I had to pull out my mat because this is the Ranger's craft mat, because I'm working with water, and the pigment was, because they're so highly pigmented, as you can see when I was spraying water, it actually pushed the color to the sides. That's how intense it is. So now I'm going to pick up some areas and see how the oxidation is going. I'm trying not to mix the colors so that I don't contaminate them much, but usually this oxidizes quite nicely as well. Maybe I didn't get enough water on there. That's it, so you can lift it like that. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and dry them, and you can see how the oxidation is already coming through. So this is like it's got like a white milky kind of look to it now. Okay, so I have gone ahead and dried them there, and that's what they look like, fully dried. So you can see this is where the ink wasn't oxidized, and same here. And then when it's oxidized, it gets this opacity to it, and kind of chalkiness as well. So it looks quite interesting. Okay, the paper wasn't great, but I just wanted to do these basic swatches, so to speak. And now what I want to do is I want to show you a couple of things that I do when I work with these Distress Oxides. So first of all, what I would do is I would work with them like I would do with watercolor. Okay, so for that you need to have either packaging or one of those clear plastic bags that you can buy in the art supply stores. So this one is the Anita's one. I quite like it. I use it for things like storing, you know, postcards in here, or creating some artwork, like on a small scale, and then sealing it and then giving it to people. You can do a lot of things, but also use it as packaging for this technique. Okay, so here's what I would do. I would use these as watercolors. So imagine, I'm just going to actually first of all draw out a pattern here so that I can show you. I'm using a waterproof ink this time so that it won't bleed. Okay, so we'll leave it at that. Okay, so that's really simple. So what I'm going to do is, let's see, I'll go, which color should I go for? I'll go for this Fossilized Amber. You just take your desired color and use this plastic. The reason you use the plastic is because the pigment is sitting on top of it and it will not go anywhere. So even if you have this sitting there for days, the pigment will still be usable. So basically it's not porous like paper is, and that is why you can use it as a palette, and it's very good. I have done other videos where I demonstrate the packaging technique where you kind of spray water or you don't and just move around the pigment like so. So have a look there. But today I am going to spray some water into here, and for this reason, because this ink, you know, I'm not familiar with what exactly pigments are used, I'm going to use a simple craft kind of brush. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just basically going to use it as I would use watercolor. So imagine you go a little bit like that, and then you're going to add some water in certain areas. So I'm just going to spray a little bit of clean water and see what happens, because obviously adding water makes it oxidize more. In fact, let me just zoom you in so you can see what's happening right here. So I've got my palette, I've got my inks. You can go as pale as you like, and you can pick up darker areas where you can see there is less watercolor or less water, and then just as we do with watercolor, adding it into the pigments. Now on the black, I wonder how it's going to look like, whether it's going to cover those lines. I'll try to stay light on there so that it doesn't cover too much, because I'm pretty sure if I just went with the pigment it would be quite opaque. Like you can see here, for example, you can see less. So I'm going to go in with a bit of more water to keep the pattern visible. And in fact, I'll just scoop off some of this pigment here. Okay, it's a beautiful color, by the way. I wasn't certain how it would look, because when you look at the pad, it looks completely different. So that's basically how you would do that. You could add other colors to it and, you know, mix colors if you wanted to. but in essence that's all we're going to do. I'm also going to add some water in some of these areas because I want to see whether that will change anything and add more. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and dry it and come back. So I have dried it now, and as I was drying it I realized that there is something happening here. So first of all, it has dried completely chalky, and the vibrancy of that yellow has gone, which is what these inks are all about. So you can see there is a variety of yellow that you can get, and you can see this lovely bright yellow here, which is where I think I used more water. So what I'm going to do now on this one is I'm going to try use more water, less pigment, and see what happens, whether we get a different look. The other thing I wanted to share with you as well, because these are water soluble, these inks, if you want to work with white, you might struggle. So I haven't tried every single thing, like white inks, for example, I haven't tried. But I have tried a modeling paste, which has basically sucked up the pigment from underneath when it was sitting on top of these oxides. In fact, I'll just show you quickly. So here, this modeling paste was as white as you can see it on this paper. However, when I applied it on top of the inks, it has changed the color and kind of sucked up what's underneath. And I find the same way. What happens is, let me just zoom you out a little touch. So what happens is that, here's the full page if you want to see. There we go. So what happens is a similar thing happens when you try to use gel pens. So I tried, so this one, the Uni Posca, that was pulling up the pigment, and I haven't actually tried this one, the Uniball, but something tells me that the ink or the gel might be similar to the Uni Posca one, so I will try it. But one thing that sort of worked okay-ish was actually this souffle pen, which is in white. So that was interesting because when you draw with it, it goes on completely transparent, and then as it dries, the pigment starts to become whiter. So on the page here, in fact, so these ones that you can barely see, I have done with Uni Posca, and I went over actually twice, and it just kind of just goes into the ink and disappears. But those ones that you can see more, here and here, these were done with that souffle pen, this one here. So if you like to add white to your projects, that's something you might consider that you need to play around a little bit. Okay, so let's go back. I'm going to now try what I said to you about the less pigment, more water. So I'm going to spray some water here, and you can see immediately the color changes. So let's see what happens if there's really minimal pigment. I'm just going to move it over here, and then after that what I want to also try is the white pen, the gel pens, also keeping in mind that it's a yellow, that it might look even less visible. But I like the yellows here, the color that comes out, you can see it's quite different. So you can really do a lot of things that you can do with watercolor and use them as watercolors as well. And obviously no watercolor will have this chalky effect when drying, so it's sort of combining watercoloring with crafting and all that. So what I would do is just add a little bit of this pigment just at the base, like so, just make it a bit more dimensional really, why not, and then go back into the light mix. It's funny how much in love I am with these oxides, because when they came out first, I was a little bit skeptical, and I thought, you know, I don't want to buy them just because Tim Holtz came out with something new. Just, you know, yes, it does look amazing, but am I going to use it? Blah, blah, blah. And anyways, I'm so happy I did, because it really has opened up a few doors in terms of ideas in illustrating. So yes, I'm going to go ahead and dry it and see whether it will dry to a similar look or not. So let's have a look whether it will keep the vibrancy. Okay, so by the looks of it, it has gone a little bit more milky as well, but you can see the yellow a little bit better, the pigment coming out of here, and so it does look really lovely. Okay, so let's try this this technique. So I'm going to go over this side where we have more of the pigment, and it is likely that the ink will just pull it up and the white will turn yellow. But let's see, I'm just going to do a couple of leaves, and yeah, I can see that it's looking very faint and it's just pulling that ink from underneath. Also seems to, either my ink pen hasn't been used in a while, or it's clogging the tip of it. Okay, so I think I'm going to keep one leaf untouched, which is this one, just as a reference, and then I will actually, now on this leaf I will use the souffle pan and see. So first of all, when you do it, do look at an angle, because you'll see a wet line, you won't see any color, so you won't know where you went. Like now you can't see anything at all, but as it dries it will start getting hopefully a bit more opaque. So I'm going to do this pen on here like that, and maybe let's also do a few dots, because dots have more pigment in them naturally. So I should have done the dots on the other one, but anyway. So this kind of doodling is super relaxing, and I like doing that. Actually, I forgot I already added lines there. So let me also do some lines with the other pen and see whether that will show anything. And I'm going to do some dots over here, see if that looks any different, and some lines here as well. Okay. Okay, so they're nice and dry again, and what I can tell you is that it looks like, so the Uniball Signo actually doesn't look that bad. I mean, you can see the white lines, they're not as crisp and white if you went maybe over like watercolor or something like that, but you can see it better than the lines from the souffle, interestingly enough. However, when it comes to the dots, the souffle win over the Uniball Signo, and it's just your take, whatever you prefer, whether you like it a more faint look or not. I personally love these dots with the souffle pen, because you can see here the dots are hardly visible compared to the very white opaque dots from the souffle pen, and they're also kind of a little bit, almost tiny little bit raised, and when you look at an angle they actually have a gloss to them. I don't know whether you can see or not. Anyway, so that's this. I also wanted to actually try this ink on the tracing paper,